All right, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm a little tired today, so if my voice sounds weird or I'm a little slow, please forgive me. Um, so I've been thinking a lot. One of the main reasons why I can't sleep very well. A lot about how to deal with certain comps in TBC as far as their annoying ass kiting ability is concerned. Specifically, I'm thinking about like Druid and Rogue or Druid and Lock. If they figure out that they can't kill you, and then they just play basically like the Zoidberg game where they're just CCing you and then they're running the fuck away, you know, like whoop 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 style. And oh man, I've been racking my brain on trying to figure out how to kill these jackasses. And the short version of the short answer, we're going to go through a bunch of hoops before we actually get to the answer, because we got to talk a lot about Mugahurt, and then we have to talk a lot about talents, and then RNG and all this other stuff. But the TLDR on the subject is um, possibly, it depends on what comp you're going against. Strip out the spirit gear from your spec in exchange for nature resist specifically. And the reason for that is, and I didn't actually write this down, which means I'm probably going to pause the video and write it down real fast. Okay, there we go, got it. Yeah, when I finished this, I was like, man, there's a lot more I need to talk about, and I couldn't remember those other things I need to write down, so I expect a lot of pausing of the video. Again, I'm tired. So the thing is that unlike Classic World of Warcraft, in Classic World of Warcraft, the way resists work is it's kind of an all or nothing affair. Meaning, when a spell hits you, if it's not a damage-based spell, only one of two things can happen. It can only either affect you with its full duration, like a full duration fear, or it can be completely resisted. There is none of these diminishing returns percentiles applied to CC style spells in Classic World of Warcraft. This is not so the case in TBC. As far as my memory is concerned, and I have very, very clear memory on this in TBC, and nobody's actually debated with me on this so far, so I'm like, all right, maybe it's this way on private servers as well, is that CCs are now subject to diminishing returns. So when a CC hits you in Classic World of Warcraft, it's going to end up being one of these five outcomes. It's either going to be 0% resisted, or it's going to have its duration cut by 25%, 50%, 75%, or it's going to be completely resisted. Now, when you're wearing resist gear in TBC, specifically to try to counter CCs, like Cyclone, for example. By the way, let's bring up Cyclone real fast here. Should be here, blah, blah, blah. And I looked it up. This is private server information, so, you know, subject to change, but people are trying to tell me that TBC's got better, blah, blah, blah. We can see here that its school of magic is nature, which means it's likely subject to nature resist. It's telling me here that its mechanic is a banish, but it's achieving this banish style mechanic via applying two effects to the target. The first one is a stun. I guess it stuns the target. And the second one is that it makes the target spell school immunity to literally everything, just like Bubble, right? So it's applying a stun effect, a nature-based stun effect, and then Bubble-style immunity. It's not telling me here if it's magical or physical in nature, meaning I don't know if you can cleanse it or not, which is kind of annoying, and this is also private server information, blah, 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 blah. But it does mean that it's very likely subject to resists. I'd be very shocked if they got this School of Magic thing wrong and it's not subject to nature resist. So assuming that it's subject to nature resist, go back to here. What this basically means is if we start getting like a middling ground of nature resist, like we try to get ourselves like 250 NR. What's going to end up happening is the 100% resists aren't all that great. 0% resists are, of course, shit, but just about anything in between we can kind of work with. What the hell is this? All right. Just about any of the percent damage reductions we can kind of work with. And just like in Classic World of Warcraft, so I want to talk about Classic first, just because the information is relevant. So in Classic World of Warcraft, since there is no diminishing returns on your resistances, it's either 100% effect or no effect at all. In Classic WoW, you're kind of forced to either go really heavy on the resistances and try to make yourself super immune to CC, or you're forced to go almost no CC at all and try to kill them with, or no resist at all and try to kill them with DPS. Paladins in Classic World of Warcraft can get around this. They can actually use a middling level of resistance, like 200 Shadow Resist or 180 Shadow Resist, particularly against like Shadow Priests. If you go watch the CDL tournaments or any Classic WoW tournaments, almost all the Paladins were running about 180 to 200 Shadow Resist when they were fighting Shadow Priests in particular, and sometimes they use that against Warlocks. And the reason why they can get away with this is because we have PvP Trinket and we have Bubble. So the way it works is first you let the CC hit you. You see if it fully resists or not. If it fully resists, great. You just let them charge up the next one and rinse and repeat. If it is resisted, then you get to decide whether or not you're bubbling it or you're PvP drinking it, and then it goes on from there. So even a middling resist can be made to work as long as you're using the bubbles and the PvP trinkets for when the resists actually fail. In TBC, something very similar happens, but because it's not an all or nothing thing. So in TBC, the 0% resists are kind of shit, and the 100% resists are also kind of shit, but they're really not, and we'll talk about why in a second. But the middling resists are something you can almost definitely work with, especially 50% and 75%. So you can wear a middling level of resistances to maximize your chances of getting one of these 3 outcomes, ideally, possibly one of these 4 outcomes, but one of these 3 outcomes, ideally, in 2s on a Druid's Cyclone. And, what the hell am I trying to say? If you get enough Nature Resist, and you pair it with PvP trinkets, cleanses, because there are 2 of you, your 2 PvP trinkets, your 2 bubbles, your 2 bops, your 2 whatevers, right? All your anti-CC abilities. I'm pretty sure that eventually Nature Cyclone off the Druid and Druid Rogue and Druid Lock is going to start to break down. It's literally not going to be effective as a kiting tool anymore. There's a lot of nuance that goes into explaining why the 10% is, or the 100% is good, and I want to get into that later in the video. But the short version of it is, come here, no. The short version of why the 100% is good is in order to properly CC both Paladins, and then to have the time to get distance away from the Paladins, that they can play the kiting game, they have to hit both Paladins with the CC simultaneously. If either one of those CCs fail, if either the Cyclone fails, or the Fear fails, or the Cyclone fails, or the stun from the Rogue fails, then the other Paladin immediately gets to do something to get the other CC off the other Paladin, right? Like in case with Druid Lock, you can just cleanse the Fear off the Lock immediately. So it's like, oh, Cyclone failed, I'm cleansing Fear off the other Paladin, get screwed. And then they have to wait until the time period before they can do it again. The diminishing returns time period, yeah, there we go. Damn, my brain doesn't really work too well. If the Fear fails, which is not likely to, because we're a Nature Resist, not Shadow Resist, then the exact same thing happens. If the Cyclone is a physical immunity, then you can probably bop the Paladin out of it. If it's a spell immunity, then you can just cleanse him out of it, that sort of thing. With the Rogue, it's kind of the same deal. Odds are the stun is a physical, or it can either be bopped or cleansed. Rogue stun, most likely not cleansed. But who knows? Maybe they threw out Blind. I guess Blind is supposed to be physical in TBC. It's not magical anymore, so you can't cleanse it, but you can bop out of it. But it's the same scenario. They need to throw them both out at the same time. If either one of them fails, it's really bad. For a Rogue's stun, it can be blocked, it can be dodged, it can be parried. It can fizzle in other ways besides needing a resist check, basically. 1 second. There we go. All right, what do I want to talk about now? So the short version of how to catch annoying ass kiters, particularly of these two comps, is start looking into getting nature resist gear to the point where Cyclone stops working, and then once Cyclone stops working, what the fuck are they going to do to get you off of them? Like, literally, what are they going to do to get you off of them? And the answer is kind of nothing, so definitely look into that. Other things to talk about is we need to talk about Mugga Hurt, and why Mugga Hurt is actually a thing. More than likely, it is going to be a thing, and how it actually doesn't hurt your spell power all that much as you would think. Other things of note before I start talking, because I'll probably start bringing them up, is, wait a minute, I actually want Cyclone up. So I found a trinket called Tomb of Fiery Redemption. It's for Paladins only, 128. This thing's pretty cool. In order to actually figure out how it worked, I had to go to, like, this wiki page, and actually gave some decent information on the subject, which is I like this, the way it's designed, because it's well balanced. So what it's saying is it procs pretty damn easily. 15% proc chance. It procs on all these effects. It's got a 45-second hidden cooldown, and it lasts 15 seconds. This is balanced in line with other PvP trinkets, because other PvP trinkets, at best, they're giving you like 80 or 85 bonus spell power like all the time, and that's like, at best, that's like, what is it? Like, actually, let's go find it here real fast. No. Tomb of Fiery Redemption? I must have, where's Endless? Okay, here's Endless. Okay, yeah, so we're back at the trinkets. So that's so you got like Shrunken Head is one of the premier burst trinkets. 53 spell power permanently, and then you get to burst for like 211 every 2 minutes, which is pretty good. The reason why I'm showcasing this real fast here is it's possible to go double burst trinket potentially with Tomb of Fiery Retribution combined with the Shrunken Head. Because if they don't share a CD overlap, when this thing procs, you can potentially also pop your PvP trinket and go ham with like your spell power Paladin, and that is actually kind of terrifying. I was going to showcase how it's technically in line with other PvP trinkets, notably Dark Moon Crusade, I think it was the other one that was catching my eye there for a bit. Dark Moon Card Crusade. Yeah, okay, so Dark Moon Card Crusade is one of the better ones as far as like raw stats is concerned. It says that it'll give you like 120 attack power at its maximum, and it'll also give you like 80 spell damage at its maximum. They only last 10 seconds, but they can keep like refreshing themselves. So you can see how this Fiery Retribution trinket with its proc chance and how long it lasts and a hidden CD of 45 seconds makes it very well in line with other potential just raw sustained trinkets. But this thing is on my list for just being like, wow, I might be able to do some shit with that. Especially if you don't need like PvP trinkets in certain matchups. Oh, baby. Just take a Fire Retribution, like a Shrunken Head, like, let me just burst on you for literally 500 bonus spell power. Meh. Yeah, good luck with that. I don't want to worry, I want Paladin. Okay, so, what the hell was I trying to talk about? So, we're trying to talk about the resist gear and then Mugga Hurt. So, Mugga Hurt is in a really weird place. And the reason why it's in a really weird place is because when you're in twos as Paladins, there's a serious question as to what seals are we using? Now, I got on the private server. In fact, maybe I will go jump on the private server real quickly here. And what I discovered was, like, I don't like going off of private server numbers for like Seal or Judgment of Wisdom and Seal of Wisdom, like their proc rates and stuff like that, because they were totally wrong in classic World of Warcraft. I just don't think I can trust it. Blah 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 blah. Is my internet not working? Is this my life? We're gonna have another scuff video. Is this what's going on here? Welcome to China, ladies and gentlemen. My internet is working. Okay. Good to know. So what the fuck is your excuse? No, seriously. What's going on here? If I can't... Oh. Information. Okay, so if I put the wrong information in, they're pretty quick on it. Anyways, Seal of Wisdom. Convictions or Paladin? Let's go with Paladin real fast. It had like an 80%... Judgment of Wisdom had like an 80% to like a 90% proc rate. It was actually kind of insane. Okay, interface options. Combat texts. Enable floating combat texts. Yep. Okay, let's also empty some mana here. Get rid of this mana as quickly as possible. Consecrations are good. Wow, that's pretty cheap. Alright, so let's empty some mana here. And, yeah, I had like an 80 to a 90% proc rate, and I'm like, wow, if it's like that in Classic, holy shit. But the moral of the story is going to be, if you can maintain melee on a target, and at the same time, so we should be seeing here pretty soon. Oh, so it's not actually going to, I hate floating combat text sometimes, I swear to God. That is not helpful. Skills, Retribution. What the fuck off? No. I want to see what the hell is wrong with floating combat texts. Low mana and health energy gains? Sure. Okay. Show me... Okay, good. Got it. Thank God. Alright. Burn some mana away a little bit here. Actually, the Holy Lights are extraordinarily expensive on the mana. But then you... No, I don't have Illumination on this build. Okay, cool. Alright, so let's see what the mana regen looks like. I wanted to check my weapon speed. Weapon speed is 1.6. So this is 1.6, and we'll throw an SOR in here just for the hell of it. Actually, let's take it off just in case it's times 2-ing. But, wow. Oh, no, I don't have Judgment of Wisdom on. I was like, wow. Did I just fail spectacularly in telling you guys what the fuck? Hey! Hey, show me the mana... Hello? Hello, McFly? Fuck it, whatever. Alright, so we can just see it going up, right? 1 proc, 2 proc, no proc, no proc, no proc, 3 procs, 4 procs, no proc, 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 proc. Maybe I just was super lucky last time. Proc, I'm just getting super unlucky this time. Proc, 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 proc. Yeah, this is more normal. Proc. Proc. Like, it just doesn't fail to proc. I don't know what the hell that was at the beginning. Dodge. Okay. Proc. 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 You scuffed fucking interface options. I swear to God. Procity. 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 Yeah, I don't know why it was failing. Okay, there's a failed proc. 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 Anyway, it's got about like an 80% proc chance. And an 80% proc chance to regain back 74 mana is actually kind of legitimately insane. So what this is basically meaning, in all extents and purposes, is that if we can guarantee that we can get physically on top of our opponent and sustain Judgment of Wisdom into them and just keep beating the shit out of them, we probably don't need Spirit Gear. Like, the mana of Wisdom, or the mana pullback from Judgment of Wisdom is so extreme under these conditions that you probably don't need the Spirit Gear. And this is kind of where Mugahurt comes in. So, Mugahurt in theory... Right, I should probably go back here. Mugahurt in theory means you're losing 200 spell power. But I want you to notice that this thing does about 31 DPS on average. You might be thinking you're losing like a metric shit ton of DPS, right? If you use a Mugahurt. But then all the spell power items only have like 41 DPS. So you're losing like 10 white DPS, which may or may not be cut by armor. So you're not really sweating it. So you're losing like 8 overall DPS. But then you're losing, I guess here you're losing like almost 250 spell power. And you're losing stats, which kind of sucks. However, because this thing has like a permanent slow attribute to it, especially if both paladins are using them, what it basically means is you can keep Judgment of Wisdom up permanently, and this allows you to go like into your full spell power damage gear set. So rather than having, so thank you. So our sustained burst, as you can see, we do about 800. Rather than having 1,000 spell power, we drop 200 spell power and try to pick up spirit and plus healing gear. And we go down to about 800 spell power, but then we have 1100 with JOC. I need to go point out why we have 1100 with JOC, and the answer is there's a Libram. I was wondering where the... Oh, wait a minute. Brutal Gladiators, Libram? Bitch, I don't give a shit about your stupid Brutal Gladiators. Get fucked. Libram of Hope, Libram of Zeal, Libram of Light. There's a Libram around here. Libram of Vengeance, perhaps? Holy Shield? Nah. Souls Redeemed. What the fuck? Justice, Pursuit, Divine Judgment. There's one here that increases your Seal of Righteousness. Yeah, here we go. Increase the damage done by your Seal of Righteousness and Judgment of Righteousness by up to 94. Oh, is it this one? I was looking for a Seal of Crusader. Let me pause the video really fast. Maybe I misread this one. Let me go find it. Yeah, so it's looking like I misread this last night. And what we got going on here is... What I read was this one. Was it Vengeance? The one that gives it for... Seal of Righteousness. Yeah. So I thought this was Seal of the Crusader, not Seal of Righteousness. And I was like, really? Wow. We can get like plus 94 spell damage to Seal of Crusader. That's actually awesome. But apparently the best we can do is a Libram of Zeal, which is like plus 47 to the spell damage. So these numbers are going to be off by about 50 that we have listed here. JOC only gives... actually, let me look real fast since I still got this up. I think it's like 211. Okay, so 220 and then about 50, so it's about 270 spell power. I basically have it listed out here so that JOC is giving you about 300 spell power, so that's actually a lie, but I'm not going to go through and manipulate that. But anyways, what I'm trying to point out here is that Judgment of Wisdom might give you metric shit tons of mana back to the point where you have so much mana coming back to you from Judgment of Wisdom that there's really no point in certain matchups, I imagine, for you even to get the Spirit Gear. Like, the Spirit Gear isn't even really going to be a factor. Judgment, if you can sustain on the target virtually indefinitely, Judgment of Wisdom is going to give you all the mana back you're ever going to be able to use or need, practically. So what you're allowed to do with Mug of Hurt, since Mug of Hurt is definitely going to allow you to stick to a target like glue, is... Rather than taking the Spirit Gear, you take the DPS gear, and you go Judgment of Wisdom and Judgment of Crusader on the target. You don't do a Judgment of Justice. Whereas the other two Paladin types kind of are forced to do a Judgment of Justice in a lot of PvP matchups, especially if they're trying to go after the Druid, and specifically in the matchups where we're going to have like kiting issues. They're really forced to put a Judgment well, in the Druid lock case, you can jump on the lock, and you might be able to get away with the other specs going Judgment of Wisdom. In the Spirit Burst case, you don't have to use Judgment of Wisdom, but it is technically a DPS increase, right? Because you have just way more mana to work with. You can start judging on cooldown. Your Spirit Gear doesn't really do all that much, blah, 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 blah. If you're going against Druid Lock, it might be viable that you go super heavy on the DPS. You jump on the Warlock. You say, to hell with Judgment of Justice. We're going to jump on this Warlock. And you Judgment of Wisdom, and you just go to town. You rely on the Judgment of Wisdom predominantly. But even in this gear, what you're probably going to want to do, because they can still just, cyclone you, fear you, and laugh at you and run away... you'd probably still sacrifice about 200 spell power to pick up some nature resist gear. And basically just try to screw over their CC. One sec, I gotta go check on something. Okay, hopefully I'm done with the interruptions. Jesus. Okay. So the idea here being that, say you wear your DPS gear. We're specifically talking Druid Lock for the moment. So say you wear your DPS gear, but you strip out like 5 pieces of gear to have no spell power, but instead we're picking up Nature Resist gear. Worst case scenario, we're picking up the Nature Resist gear out of like AQ or Nax, for example. Like, it's actually like raid gear from AQ or Nax, which you can probably get together with like 10 of your friends and just crush the shit out of it come level 70. Actually, it'd be kind of fun to go do Nax and stuff with only 10 man. But anyways, let me think. Nature Resist gear. Yeah, worst case scenario, you're picking it up from Classic, but that's probably not going to be a thing. There's probably plenty of Nature Resist gear lying around in TBC for you to stack. The reason why we're stacking Nature Resist gear and not Shadow Resist gear is because Shadow Resist gear is not only needed for the Black Temple, but if you go look on the gearing, like, everybody has access to Shadow Resist gear, and it's like metric ass shit tons of Shadow Resist gear. So, for example, if I go armor and I just pick a random anything, like, let's just go plate. Yeah, whatever. Plate. By the time I scroll down here, let me see if I can pick it up real fast. There's not Onslaught. Nah, that's all the warrior stuff. Where are you? It should say, it actually should say blacksmithing over here. Yeah, Swift Steel? No, it's not the Swift Steel. Blacksmithing, where are you? Blacksmithing, Shade Steel. Alright, here we go. Like 40 stamina, 51 shadow resist. This is all blacksmithing gear. 40 stamina, 54 shadow resist. 30 stamina, 40 shadow resist. 54, 72 shadow resist. 49, that's not Shade Steel. Maybe you get the point, right? So this gear exists. It costs like motes of shadow out of the Black Temple area that you primarily farm these things from the shadow elementals, and I think it's like required gear for like the Black Temple. So everyone and their dog is going to have access to some variant of super heavy shadow resist gear if they so want to, which means that warlocks in PvP are almost universally going to have a spell pen set. Because if they don't have a spell pen set, everyone and their dog has access to this damn resist gear. Like if I go cloth over here, it's going to be the exact same story. I just scroll down until I find tailoring, where it's all saying something blah 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 shadow blah blah blah. Stop screwing around, dickhead. Tailoring. No. Tailoring. Okay, got some tailoring. Swift mantle. No, that's going to be the speed stuff. So it should be, I guess it's 130, the same as the last one. No. Tailoring. Soul guard bracers. Yep, here's the shadow resist gear. 72 shadow resist. 54 shadow resist. 54 shadow resist. You seen a theme? It's even the exact same stamina. Damn, alright. So everyone and their dog has access to a shadow resist set, which means any warlock taking himself seriously in Arena is going to have a pen gear set. Now, I don't know. There we go. Jeez. I don't know. So I guess this brings us to a bunch of different factors. So number one, I don't know if gear is swappable in arenas or not. Like, can you drop combat and can you swap gear? That is kind of important for a number of reasons. If you can swap gear, then things get kind of interesting. But if you can't swap gear, then there's a bit of a rock, paper, scissors thing going on. It's like, well, is this guy going to be wearing resist sets? Is this guy not going to be wearing resist sets? Do I have the time and the space to break contact with them if they are wearing a resist set and getting into my pen set? Blah, 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 blah. There's also the issue of maybe there's a mechanic in Arena where... Make sure I'm recording here. Maybe there's a mechanic in Arena where... if the arena match has been going on for like half an hour, for example, and nobody's won yet or nobody's died yet or anything like that, maybe the arenas just automatically declare the duel a draw, for example. And it might be a draw based upon like how many people are alive. So if 2 people are alive on one team and 2 people are alive on the other team in twos, the game just says fuck you both. You're getting a draw, no points. It's been half an hour. Get the hell out of here. If a person is alive, 2 people are alive on one team and 1 person is alive on the other team, like they went stealth and they're just somehow never getting found for like half a fucking hour. They're just trying to time out the duel. They're being super annoying. Cancerous ass. Then after 30 minutes, it just gives the win to the other team because they got more players. Maybe there's a mechanic like that in TBC. I've heard horror stories about people being on private servers, people being in arenas for like hours and hours and hours because they don't have a mechanic like that. Don't know if they will have a mechanic like that in Classic World of Warcraft. Ideally, there will be a mechanic like that in Classic World of Warcraft, and then we don't have to work our dicks off in order to actually kill Druid Rogue or Druid Lock if they're doing the Zoidberg strategy of just running away from us, because eventually it'll just time out and it'll just give us both a draw, and I think everyone in the duel at that point will be happy. It's like, okay, whatever, let's just go to the next one, try to find something we can kill. Obviously, we can't kill each other in this duel. Not worth our stress. However, I'm assuming worst case scenario, and we're going to be stuck with these fuckers for like hours and hours and hours unless we can find a way of killing them. So I'm very interested in finding a way of killing them. First place I'm looking is Mug of Hurt a viable option? What does that look like? And the next place I'm looking is, can we do Nature Resist? What does that look like? Then I'm looking, can we combine Nature Resist and Mug of Hurt and stuff like that? What does that look like? And what it looks like is you don't actually lose a lot of spell power with Mug of Hurt, because when you're using Mug of Hurts, it allows you to ignore the spirit gear. And so instead you end up gearing for like 1,000 spell power, right? But then you're losing 250 because you're putting on the Mug of Hurt. But you're not losing much spell power because you're primarily relying on Judgment of Wisdom mana pullback. I didn't realize it was going to be that extreme in TBC if the private server is correct. In Classic World of Warcraft, it's a 66% chance to proc regardless of weapon swing timer. In TBC, it's looking like it's like an 80% chance to proc regardless of weapon swing timer. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Or maybe it's PPM, so this might even be more percent chance to proc. So it's like, whatever. But it's possible that you can jump on like the lock, for example, right here. So picture this. Okay, let's put Mug of Hurt and the resist gear set together. So we've got some resist gear, which means we're down like 150 spell power. Right, we swapped out like 5 pieces of gear for like 5 nature resist pieces. But we're in pure spell power gear. We're also down like we're down 150 here, and we're down 250 because we're using Mug of Hurt. So that means we're down about 400 spell power already by combining Nature Resist with Mug of Hurt. This JOC is actually only 270, not 300, but I'm just going to say 300 because of math reasons. So technically, we've got 1,300 spell power, but we're down 400 spell power, which means we're sitting at around 900 spell power, effectively, right? So spell power is not all that great. We've got 900 spell power, but think about what we can do. We can jump on the Warlock, okay? And we can do, and it's almost impossible for them to get us off of them. Because the Cyclones are not working very well at all. And if the Cyclones are not working, then that means that the Warlock's fear is not working, because we're just cleansing the fear right off of them. The Warlock is so horrifyingly slowed, almost permanently slowed, so that even if they get off like a 3-second stun chain, like they get off like a 3-second Cyclone, brain's dying. They get off a 3-second Cyclone. The Warlock can only get away from us about 12 yards, maybe 14 yards physically away from the Paladin, before the Paladin's Cyclone wears off, and then he turns and he cleanses the other Paladin, and then he starts running and catching up to the Warlock, which may or may not be about to, the slow may or may not be about to wear off of them, and then, you just stun the Warlock, and you're just back right on top of the Warlock. So you're at 900 spell power, and they're physically unable to get you off of the Warlock. If you're jumping on the Druid can get you can theoretically get off a lot better, because Well, that's not true, entirely true, because in Classic World of Warcraft, druids can't shift out of this 50% slow, but I guess they can run away from you at 100% speed because they go into travel form. They can't reduce the 50% speed negative, but they do get the benefit. We don't have Judgment of Justice on them, is what I'm trying to say. If you jump on the Druid, you don't have Judgment of Justice on them. You're using Judgment of Wisdom because we're not using Spirit Gear. So we're maintaining this constant 900 spell power DPS Paladin at near full force into the Warlock. If we try to jump on the Druid, they can theoretically go travel form and get enough distance away from us that they might be able to break contact on like a 3-second Cyclone. But it's not looking pretty. You can also pair this stuff with things like what the hell is it? Go back over here. Go over here. So you definitely want to pair it with your bubble. You want to pair it with your PvP trinket, and you're doing that stuff that we talked about earlier in Classic World of Warcraft, where it's like we get to see what the effects of the resistances are. We're like, oh shit, is that a 6-second Cyclone that's on us? Yeah, trinket that, bubble that, fuck that shit, and then cleanse off the fear kind of a thing. It's like, no, we're not sitting that crap. You can also combine it with other trinkets. So if I go, let's see, items. Armor, trinkets. You can try to find other trinkets to pair it with. Personally, the spell power trinket doesn't look half bad, but there's also that one from AQ40 that it does like 100 to all resistances temporarily. Let me see if I can find it real fast here. Which might be something you would want to pair with this. Talisman of the Alliance, required level, okay, 60s. Razor Gore the Untamed. Okay, we're getting close. Ebon Rock. Whoa, that Scarab Brooch. Petrified Scarab. Yeah, it's this thing, okay. Increase your spell resistances, 3-minute cooldown. Increase your spell resistances by 100 for 1 minute. Every time a hostile spell lands on you, this bonus is reduced by 10 resistances. It lasts a minute. Every time a hostile spell lands on you, this bonus is reduced by 10 resistance. This is a long time to have a metric, to have such a bonus to nature resist. But maybe also find a trinket that just magically gives you nature resist somewhere, or some other trinket that's equally good as this for the purposes of... But my point is, if you're being a dick about this, you could have like PvP trinket and Petrified Scarab and bubble on top of that, and it's just like good luck getting us off of you if and when we want off of you. But you're probably better off in this gear getting more of a sustained DPS like that Tome of Fiery Redemption, and just leaning into some extra spell power, that kind of a thing. But there are other options with your secondary trinket for the purposes of leaning into this strategy, especially against warlocks, God forbid. You could... Now, I guess you can't use a Shadow Reflector as engineering, could you? Increase all damage done by magical spells, and decreases the target's resistances to your spells. Yeah, and you're kind of forcing the Druid to have an Eye of Moab, which is actually objectively fucking hilarious, if he wants to get anything done. But the point is, you should be able to maintain large quantities of time on target but with a Mug of Hurt and Nature Resist, while maintaining like 900 spell power and massive amounts of mana return, which is pretty good. Now, if you haven't seen my previous videos, we talk about a concept called, let me make it big here, just so you're paying for, just in case you're not 100% sold on Mug of Hurt yet. No, bigger is better. Okay, we're going to talk about a concept of DPS versus lowercase d and lowercase p and a capital S. Okay. So I'm going to talk about the concept of DPS versus DPS with a capital S. So your amount of damage that you're able to pump into a target is technically a combination of the D, and it is a combination of the S, right? You can either go big D or you can go big S, right? Now, big D would be you're increasing your damage a lot. Like you're trying, like the burst damage gear isn't really heavy on the S. Like they're not looking to sustain in a fight or maintain time on target with their opponent for long periods of time and just pump their DPS in them constantly. They're looking for very short, small windows where they jump on the target and they just zap the shit out of them with all of their spells. The mana costs be damned, whether or not it's sustainable over time be damned, blah, 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 blah. DPS, with a capital S, which is more of this mugga hurt, nature resist, you're never going to get us off you, we're here permanently, we're just beating the shit out of you, ha 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 ha, your CC is not working, when it does fucking work, we're just bubbling it, we're fucking PvP drinking it, we got 4 of these, did you know we have 4 of these? By the way, your fucking Cyclone's not working, did you notice your Cyclone's not working? Fuck you. And you're never getting off of them. 900 spell power Paladin, constantly pumping what DPS you have into them relentlessly. In this case, your D is very low. That's why we got a lowercase here. Your D is not good, right? Your 900 spell power when you could be 1300 spell power, right? The D is pretty meh. But the S, the amount of seconds, the amount of time you're able to just lean on them with what D that you have is astronomical. Mugger Hurt, paired with some nature resistance, yes, you lose a significant portion of spell power. You're down about 400 spell power, down 150 here, down about 250 there. But you're still going to be having like 850, 900 spell power. Maybe you go with Fiery Retributor Trinket over here, which you're going to pick up a little bit more spell power. There's going to be about 900 spell power, and you're just permanently leaning on them with what damage you're able to have. You're going to find that in conjunction with each other, you're actually going to have higher performance than if you did something else, right? Like if you went like a pure burst on them or you tried to do the sustain burst. In this particular matchup's case, I think Mug of Hurt and a bit of nature resist is going to go a long way. Right, I didn't finish the whole reason why we're going nature resist and not shadow resist thing. The idea is every lock and his dog is going to have a pen set, and I don't know how easy they're going to be able to get into their pen set, or they might just plan to like try to time out the duel if they see like two paladins or they know you or that kind of crap, and they're like, oh, I'm wearing a pen set against these fuckers, Jesus. But the druid very likely doesn't even own a pen set. Like, he very likely does not even own a pen set. Because I've looked at the pen gear, and it's really bad for like, a druid. It's like, the pen gear is almost universally, like, stamina, intellect, spell damage, pen. Or it's not even, like, spell damage. It's just, like, pen. And it's got almost no spirit on it, right? So even if the druid has pen gear, which is going to be, like, almost none of the druids are going to have pen gear, and almost no druid is going to be wearing pen gear, God help it, or God help them. And if somehow you do run into a druid who's wearing pen gear, the odds are very good that he doesn't have a lot of spirit on him, so he's going to have struggles either way. But in this particular case, we're just banking, if we're wearing the nature resist gear, we're basically just banking that druids don't have pen sets. Like, what are they going to do in raid? They're going to, like, fight all the other classes that need the pen gear for PvP because some fucking insane paladin, some paladin pair jackass is using nature resist against them. I mean, fuck off. Like, they're not going to be, they're not going to sell that. They're going to say things to them in raid like, dude, you're a druid, you already have the easiest time ranking, fuck off, I need that pen gear, blah, blah, blah. So, odds of you running into a druid that actually has a pen gear set that's actually wearing it in arena while you're wearing your nature resist and going 900 spell power into them, very, very low, which is why I'm suggesting a middling ground of nature resist. In theory, you can lose a little bit more spell power and go up to like 300 nature resist or god or higher if you really need to. But I think that's actually going to work pretty damn good. And one of the major reasons it's probably going to work pretty damn good is you have to look at it from the opposing team's perspective as well. We're going to talk about Druid Rogue here in a second, but if you look at it from the opposing team, like maybe Maybe ahead of time. Like, let's say you're queuing up into arena and you're going against a sweaty lock druid combo, which I don't know why a lock druid combo is feeling the need to be this sweaty, but let's say that they're sweaty, right? Like, technically, they're the number one comp in twos. So why exactly they're feeling the need to be sweaty, I don't know. But it might be possible that they can look you up in like Armory or something and get an idea that you might be one of these Nature Resist, Mug of Hurt jackasses, or you might be a sustain comp. It's still kind of the case that if you're bringing a sustain comp paladin, like let's say you're two Holy Shock paladins, right? So they don't know what you are. They don't know if you're coming in with Nature Resist and Mug of Hurt. They don't know if you're. They probably don't even know what the fuck that is until they've lost to it like half a dozen times. They don't know if, and even then, they probably still don't know what the fuck happened. They probably just think they got super unlucky on their spell casts, and that's how they lost. They don't know if you're a burst comp. They have to gear very differently if they suspect you being a burst comp because shit like our Tome of Fiery Retribution and then our frickin' Shrunken Head are potentially a thing. Right? It's potentially a thing that they can just wings on you and pop you out of existence. So in the previous video when I was blathering away about Holy Shock DPS, or burst capabilities, I didn't factor in wings, and I didn't factor in wings because, in my opinion, it's like, if you have to wings to kill the druid, it means you also had to wings to get a PvP trinket out of the druid, right? If the druid has got balls of steel and he knows what he's able to take, and he's looking at the RNG, he's not gonna trinket prematurely in the first burst cycle, which means that you probably had to pop. In theory, you have to pop. One of the paladins has to pop wings to get the PvP trinket out of the druid, which means that in the second burst, only one paladin has wings available theoretically, but that is potentially enough to kill the druid unless the druid is spec'd very specifically. There's also some interesting observations where you do things like that double burst trinket that we were talking about, like Fire Retribution, and then like the Tome trinket. But this is still the most spell power you can probably get. But the point is that they have to gear very, very differently when fighting the bursting paladins. There's some trinkets here that increase their healing substantially, like rather than like 300 spell power, it gives you like plus 700 healing. There's other like more tank trinkets, like this stupid one here that's got like 45 stamina on it. So I'm not entirely sure how they would gear, but they're probably gearing in such a way and kiting in such a way and CCing in such a way that they're trying desperately to not die to the double burst comp. So they live in fear of the double burst comp is what I'm saying. So from their perspective, they have to like play rock, paper, scissors. They're like, hey, do we gear to survive the Paladin burst comp? Or do we gear less, more spirit? As a druid, do I gear more spirit and I gear to try to survive the sustained burst comp, right? Because that's still a really scary comp for them. And if they brought the stuff to survive the Holy Shock burst comp, they're probably going to die horribly to a spirit-based sustain comp, because the druid's going to desperately be trying to drink. It's going to be really hard to drink against two Holy Shock paladins. They're just not going to let him do it very often, and he'll probably just run out of mana eventually and die because they can sustain pretty good. And then once they close with the druid, despite all the pillar humping and all that stuff, they can just burst on them with what mana they've managed to gain back from the spirit. Good chance that druid lock will actually die to sustain burst comp if they geared to be survivable against Holy Shock burst comp. If they gear for more sustain, this likely means that they're not they'll die to the burst comp, right? It's like very rock, paper, scissors. Like, what do we gear to try to deal with? Do we try to gear to deal with sustain? And what's fucked up about gearing against sustain is the best case scenario they get is a draw. It's like worst case scenario is they run into burst and they die horribly. Best case scenario is they run into the spirit comp that they're gearing to try to beat, and they get a draw. So that's not even preferable for them to try this. But then also, even if they're gearing sustain comp, well, definitely if they're gearing for anti-burst, if they run into the Mugahurt nature resist spec, they're going to get absolutely rolled. They're going to get rick-rolled. It's going to get absolutely mauled because they don't have the sustain to deal with the jackasses that they can't get off of them. If they run into sustain burst, what was I talking about? All right, if they gear for sustain burst so they have the spirit, and then they run into Mugahurt nature resist, life is still going to be a struggle. It's going to be a struggle for different reasons, but life is still going to be a struggle. And again, the best case scenario they can hope for is a fucking draw. So the vast majority of the cases, from their perspective, they might as well gear to counter the double holy shock burst, because it's the only way that they actually can win and avoid the draw. And anything else is basically a loss, and the vast majority of paladins are going to be double holy shock bursting because they just like doing that, I guess. The other possibility is that they run into Argent Defender Paladin, and Argent Defender Paladin could be doing one of these two here. And the situation is kind of the same for them. If they run into Argent Defender Paladin doing Mug of Hurt and Nature Resist, what's going to happen is they're going to get absolutely fucking mauled because they don't have the sustain to deal with that at all. If they have the sustain to deal with it, the best they can hope for is a draw. But even then, the two Argent Defender Paladins might absolutely just rickroll them. Like, they might actually be able to muster enough DPS to get the job done. Okay. Enough of that. And yes, you are jumping on the Warlock because you know you can... he can't go anywhere as long as he's being slowed pretty predominantly. You can keep Judgment of Wisdom on him, and it just allows you to gear, rather than Spirit, you're going Nature Resist. So against the Rogue, things get more interesting. The Rogues have a lot more kind of annoying CC. Like, you can't cleanse the stuns out of the Rogue, right? Like, that's just kind of a thing. You cleanse the Warlock Fear, but you can't cleanse the stuns. Bit of a problem. However, this brings us to the goddamn talent calculator. Once I find the damn talent calculator. So, as a double Holy Shock comp, again, I haven't talked about this, you don't really want to have Argent Defender comp mixed with Holy Shock comp. Those two don't go together well. You're either a double Holy Shock or you're a double Argent Defender. Mixing the two doesn't work very well for a variety of reasons. Like, maybe it works all right. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. But you lose a lot of the advantages. So an Argent Defender, for example, there's no soft target, and there's no target that doesn't have Reckoning. And that's a big fucking problem. And with the Holy Shock comp, double Holy Shock, both targets are technically soft targets, but both targets are also are pretty fucking durable, and they got some serious burst, right? So there's no soft target there, theoretically. When you mix the two, you start gaining some of the advantages and some of the weaknesses, blah, 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 blah. So don't mix them. Now, the interesting thing about the Rogue Druid, especially with Nature Gear and like Mug of Hurt. So, Rogue and Druid both have the ability to move faster. Like, Rogues can sprint and Druids can travel form. So, the idea that you can jump on them with Mug of Hurt and not have to use Judgment of Justice and being able to rely on Judgment of Wisdom is kind of iffy. So, for example, you can probably jump on the Rogue if the Rogue's... what the hell is it? If the Rogue's sprints are on a long enough cooldown timer, you can probably just jump on the Rogue and wear him out of sprints with Mug of Hurt to try to get away from you and then kill him that way. That might be a possibility. So you might be able to go Judgment of Wisdom, Judgment of Crusader against the Rogue. There's also a strong possibility that they can't really sprint too well. So, for example, let's say you're going Mug of Hurt and you're going Nature Resist and you're using Judgment of Wisdom and Judgment of the Crusader. You're not going Spirit Gear, and you're pumping your DPS into the Rogue. So the Rogue is slowed, and him and the Druid decide that they're going to go for a CC. right? They're like, okay, we're going to Cyclone that Paladin, and you're going to stun this other Paladin over here. The first thing that happens is the Cyclone has to run the gambit of Nature Resist, right? Big fucking problem. Probably not going to successfully run the gambit of the Nature Resist, but he might actually do it. The Rogue, on the other hand, their stuns have to run the gambit of block, dodge, and parry. Block, dodge, and parry. Yeah. Block, dodge, parry, and resist. Now, for the Holy Paladins, the Holy Shock Paladins, this is a bit of an issue because they don't have much in the way of block, they don't have much in the way of dodge, they don't have much in the way of parry, and they don't have much in the way of the resistances. However, for the Argent Defender Paladins, they kind of don't give a shit. And the reason is because they got 5 out of 5 in Redoubt. Then when they get deeper, 5 out of 5 in Redoubt. Then when you get deeper, improved concentration aura, additional silence or interrupt effect. Yeah, not happening. They have Stoicism, which also increases their resistance to stun effects by an additional 10%. You're going to be using the meta gem in your head that gives you like 18 stamina and resistance. I think I got it on Paladin right here. Or increased 5% resistance. I'm not sure this stacks, but it would be dumb if it didn't stack. Where's the meta gem? Yeah, okay, so the meta gem says 18 stamina and 5% stun resist, right? So you're going to be like an orc with your stun resist. You're going to have like 20% stun resist on the Argent Defender Paladins. So then when you get deeper here, what else? Blessing of Sanctuary, this thing here, 2 out of points in this thing, 5 out of 5 here. You technically have Holy Shield, and you have Redoubt. So I think the Gouge stun has to run the gambit of possibly Holy Shield charges are there. It's like the Rogue either has to try to attack the Paladin to get rid of the Holy Shield charges, because you only have 4 charges, right? But he's going to be taking more damage to do that, which really sucks. In the process of attacking the Paladin and try to get rid of Holy Shield, there's a damn good fucking chance he procced Redoubt. So no matter how you look at it, this poor Rogue, whether he attacks the Paladin or not, he's going to have to go through like something like a 40% chance to block either way. And then, of course, if they're overlapped, it's going to be like really bad. It's going to be like 75% chance to block or some crazy shit like that. So he has to run the gambit of like a 20% chance to be stun resisted, a 40% chance that his stun is blocked, more like a 45-50% chance that it's blocked, dodged, or parried. Good fucking luck with that. When he finally and both of them have to succeed together, which is the real kicker, right? Like the Rogue has to run the gambit on a stun and be successful, and the Druid has to run the gambit on his Cyclone and be successful, and the Paladins have to be out of shit like PvP Trinket and Bubble. Like, both of them have to be out of it. Because the moment they succeed in both of these, they're like, fuck yeah, I got a 6-second Cyclone. And the Rogue's like, fuck yeah, I got a 3-second or a 6-second stun. Hell yeah, let's kite these bitches. One of them just trinkets out of it and stuns him for 6 seconds immediately and just waits for their Paladin to get out. Like, it's kind of cancerous ass. So I figure, like, best case scenario, the Druid and the Rogue might get 3 seconds of being able to run away. And 3 seconds of running away at, again, if the Warlock can't make it away at minus 50% movement speed, the Rogue can't make it away without sprint. If the Rogue is sprinting, then that is your cue to PvP Trinket, right? Like, or to Bubble. Like, literally, it's the moment you see the sprint being used, that's kind of what you're saving your trinkets and your bubbles for. So there might be this weird game of chicken between you and the Rogue, where the Rogue's like, dude, I can't use sprint until we get rid of those bubbles and those PvP trinkets. Meanwhile, the Paladins are like, do not use our last bubble or our PvP trinket until the Rogue has used sprint. And make sure that we always have a stun available. Because, and then, so the Rogue more than likely is going to find himself in a very similar situation to that of the Lock. The Holy Shock Paladins have it a little different. Because they don't have the block opportunities against the Rogue. They don't have, yeah, yeah, they don't have the block. They don't have the increased chance to resist the stun, even though there's still like a 10% chance to resist. So the math for them will be a little bit more difficult against Druid and Rogue, but there's still a couple of Holy Shock Paladins with like 900 spell power effectively, which means they're still really, really threatening the burst. And on top of that, the moment they come out of their CCs, they actually have ranged attack abilities to keep Druid or Rogue from, like, breaking combat and drinking and stuff like that. So there's still a really good chance that Mug of Hurt combined with Nature Resist will actually screw over Druid and Rogue for, like, the Holy Shocks. But for, like, different reasons. Like, they might get away from you once or twice, and then RNGesus, like, that's if RNGesus is going normal. And then there'll be, like, a long period of time where RNGesus is not smiling on them, and you might just wear them out over time. Like, let's say they geared for the anti-Paladin burst meta, right? So this Druid doesn't have a lot of spirit on him. He really needs to break contact with the opponents for, like, 15 seconds or so, and get some drink ticks in. This is what he needs to do. However, you're not letting this rogue go with like 4 anti-CCs and some fucking nature resistance backed up by slows. All right, that's another thing that I guess I need to talk about. Like, there's also a small percent chance from the 2 Mug of Hurts that they're going for the CC, and right before they succeed at the CC, like right as it's about being cast, Mug of Hurt decides it wants to refresh itself for 10 seconds. If that happens, then it doesn't even matter if the CC was successful. It probably doesn't even matter if the rogue uses sprint successfully. It's just not going to be a good time. The point is that the Holy Shock Paladins actually are threatening enough burst that I don't think the Druid can break off contact from the fight, like stop healing the Rogue for long enough periods of time to sustain himself through the engagement if he's geared for anti-burst Paladins. There's still some rock, paper, scissors involved. Like, it gets complicated. There's a lot of nuance here. But what I'm basically seeing is the Argent Defender Paladins are just going to absolutely eat Druid and Rogue alive just because with Mug of Hurt and Nature Resist, especially if they're geared for anti-burst, because they're just going to pump 900 spell power worth of damage into the Rogue constantly, like forever and a day constantly, and the Rogue is just never going to have a chance to get away. The CCs are just going to not work. Against Druid Lock, it's going to be kind of the same story. They just can't get them off of them, period, and end of story. Like, it's going to be kind of a nightmare. What else? Holy Shock Paladins might have an easier... Yeah, I get the point. Okay. Worst case scenario. Okay, so here's the nightmare scenario. Nightmare scenario is, for some reason, what I'm saying just absolutely doesn't work, right? This doesn't work. This whole video is useless. There is no, after 30 minutes or so, or if you jackasses are still dueling in the arena, you get kicked out and there's a draw, that you can technically be in there forever. And there's just no way to stop these two, one or two of these specs from kiting you into oblivion. Like, they can't kill you, but you can't catch and kill them. They're pillar humping their way to victory. They're Zoidberg in it. Worst case scenario is if that's the case in TBC. Whoa, all right, physics. If that's the case in TBC, there's probably going to be some discords that get started. They're going to be like win trading discords, like cross-factioning collusion will start being a thing, more than likely. An example would be worst case scenario is there's no like Discord where you can talk cross-faction on the subject. So you can't talk to your opponents in the arena via Discord and be like, hey, we've been in here for like 30 minutes. Can't we come to some kind of a win trading arrangement? Blah, 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 blah. Just to get us the hell out of here and into the next duel. But yeah, so if there's no Discord, worst case scenario is you like buy another account and you like level Horde characters up to the appropriate level where you can whisper people on like the Horde side or the Alliance side or whatever, and you just talk to them and be like, hey man, blah 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 blah, let's come to some kind of an agreement. That's probably not that's that's probably not going to be a thing. That's like super nightmare scenario stuff. I'm not super concerned that that's going to happen. But, you know, it is on the list. But yeah, so currently I'm looking into, like, you know, Mugger Hurt and Nature Resist. Put them together. I think the Druid is going to have problems. But mostly it has to do with the comp, right? Like, if this was, like, double Druid here, the Nature Resist Mugger Hurt thing I don't think would work. Or maybe, like, Druid Mage? But then they have other issues. They got mana issues, so it's like, I don't know. I'm thinking about it, boys. I'm thinking about it. Yeah, but I guess this really depends on if Judgment of Wisdom is a mana cash cow. If Judgment of Wisdom isn't a mana cash cow in TBC, then we might be back to trying to work with Spirit. But I'm really liking this. I'm liking the idea of fucking Mug of Hurt with 250 to 300 Nature Resist. And then I'm sitting at like 850 to 900 spell power. You know, maybe I got that proc trinket in there, that the Fiery Retributor, which can really kick off. And I'm just leaning into them hard, and I'm saying, did you or did you not bring the Spirit Gear? And did you or did you not bring enough Spirit Gear? And did you bring any pen gear? Because I don't even think you're going to have pen gear. And if so, if not, I'm just gonna maul the shit out of you. And this is kind of interesting because it works really good with the Argent Defender Paladin build. The Holy Shock builds have enough advantages on their own. But I just like the idea that it synergizes well with the stun resist, with the block chances to try to screw over the rogue. I'm not too terribly concerned about the Warlock because you can just cleanse out of that crap. I'm really digging it. So, okay. Yeah. Anyways, I'll keep digging around, see what I can find, see what I can't find, and Deus Vult, boys.